Jon Morosi on MLB Network put out a thought that, well, a one Cedric Mullins could be the guy that some main contenders could want if the Orioles ever were to let him go. So, Brad, can we play that clip for the audience?
Meanwhile, 7.5 back in that division. It has been a rough start, to say the least. Are we at the point where we talk deadline now, or is that way too soon?
It's a little bit too soon, Lauren, but certainly as we're looking at the outlook and how things might unfold, I've got one name circled on that Orioles lineup, and that is Cedric Mullins, who's off to an excellent start, is a pending free agent. And when you think about the type of player who makes a massive impact at the deadline, it's this type of player and person. Of course, Dero had Cedric on Team USA. It says a lot about him personally and professionally. His character, he can steal you a base. He can play above average defense. He can bat anywhere you need in the lineup. And for the number of teams out there that need a center fielder, if you were to take a comparison, as much as there's been rumblings about Luis Robert Jr. for a long time, Mullins has an easier contract to move. He's playing better right now than Robert is. And he's a pending free agent. For all those reasons, you think about the Phillies being a tremendous fit for him. I would even see a team like the Rangers possibly being a good fit for Cedric Mullins. There are very few teams in baseball for whom he would not be a good fit. It would not add something meaningful to their player contribution. So I think right now Cedric Mullins on the short list of potential impact position players moved at the deadline, unless the Orioles go on some kind of amazing
Orioles
run.
fans not liking this.
All the fans in the DMV want me to add this clause and say unless they really get going, which they may, but the time is getting short.
I would hate everything about it.
Yeah, even if the O's are still where they are at right now, who are they going to replace Cedi with at center field?
Well, I mean, they would. I mean, Cowser would come back. They would probably put Cowser or
that's terrible.
Well, and it's not that I don't understand the business side of it. A business move, if you're like, hey, Cedric's a free agent, and you have no
hope.
Well, I wouldn't say hope. If you really aren't going to consider bringing him back, if you're not going to bring Cedric Mullins back, you make the move.
Yeah.
But if you keep him, you better keep him in Baltimore past 2025, 6, 7. You better keep him here.
Yeah.
That's only my thing. And at some point for a team, you have guys that embody what it means to be a Baltimore Oriole. And I think right now fans are still worried because no players have re-signed yet. And we've already talked about it. If I'm a young Orioles player and they have their agents and the Orioles too, it's a risk for both sides, and not everyone wants to get on the same page there. You can look around baseball, and even though the Braves were rewarded with some contracts, some of those guys haven't lived up to the contracts later on. Julio Rodriguez, if we go to the Mariners, hasn't been the Julio Rodriguez that signed that deal when he was crowned the next best player of all time. You know, like that's how what people were thinking. Julio Rodriguez is going to be one of the best outfielders we have ever seen. Still a very talented player, hasn't lived up to the contract. I just think if you're trying to build with what you have, Cedric Mullins is a guy that the community loves, the city loves. His style of play impacts the Orioles.
The clubhouse loves.
And I think when the Orioles lost Santander, or they chose not to re-sign him, which I still think was the right move because look how much he signed for.
Yeah.
And when you're looking to project out, I still project Cedric to play center field for the next 3 years at least. So if you're saying, hey, I can give Cedi a 3-year deal and he can be my guy out there, I like that component. Santander, you couldn't see that future, but people were really hurt. Why? He was one of the longest tenured guys on the team.
Well, and you've talked about this multiple times over as far as having that veteran presence in the clubhouse. What better veteran to have in the clubhouse right now than somebody who's been through the worst of it and the best of it with this club, and seeing them through adversity, other than the vet, Cedric Mullins.
No, the vet. I think that part gets undermined in sports. Is
overlooked?
Yes, or undermined, overlooked in sports. However, yeah, overlooked might be the correct term. At the end of the day, players are still human, and there's two sides of it that they look at. Are they comfortable in a place that has been good to them? And they also got to look out for the business side. They got to look out for their livelihood. We're seeing it across sports. I mean, Kevin, you're talking about seeing how it's happening with the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson, and it's getting a little ugly, right? Because people want their money. I don't blame Trey Hendrickson, but that's getting a little bit uglier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame him, though. You got to make that choice. In baseball, Corbin Burns made a choice. He got paid, went back home. Santander went to the highest bidder. Cedric Mullins, he's going to have a choice to some extent, but it's also a really good opportunity if they want to keep him. It's a good look for everything. So I really think this move solely is going to come down to, if it ever gets to that, to the Baltimore Orioles see that they're going to have Cedric Mullins in their future. If they don't, then yeah, you should trade him. But if you want him to be a Baltimore Oriole, keep him here. And then that's going to give people a sign of approval of, you kept him. Well, great. I hope that we have another guy that can become an Orioles legend. Because you know what, over time, there hasn't been a lot of Orioles legends, at least in the last decade. The last ones was that final group. You can say Adam Jones, J.J. Hardy, Chris Davis had his run. But Cedric Mullins, I think, could be in that category if the Orioles decide to keep him.